Holy Spirit. Please be seated. It is the splendor of the pre-dawn light that entices me from my bed each morning. With the warmth of a cup of steaming tea held in my hands, I curl my sleepy body into a comfy armchair, strategically placed to catch the first rays of the morning sun. My eyes and heart settle in quiet anticipation of the glory about to be revealed. From the depth and the darkness of the night, whether having been splattered with the sight of stars and planets with the promise of galaxies beyond, or brightly illumined by the fullness of the moon, streaming whiteness against a midnight blue sky. To the woods beyond our walls, which hold the sounds of owls hooting in the distance, or nocturnal animals making their rounds, moving silently on leaf-littered space between the trees. To that space, that open space, between the austere trunks of the trees, which inhabit and provide the framework for the woods beyond, muted colors begin to appear. Pastel shades of pink begin the song which beckons the dance of light for the new day. Stripes of purplish pink alternate with striations of clear light blue, both of which radiate and seem to strain forward so as to touch the other side of the world. As I settle into my sacred spot to witness the gift of a new day, the colors deepen in hue, reflect in the clouds above, and thrust their way between the branches and twigs of the towering trees. The ash and the oak trees begin to sway, seemingly joining the dance of the morning, with an eagerness to join in the joy of the rising sun. As my prayer time extends and my soul stretches to embrace this moment, the light of the new day strengthens, with shadows taking shape, with rosy light reflected on the east side of the tree trunks, until suddenly, without warning, blue sky pops into view, light becomes focused, and it has happened. The blazing sun has been birthed from the horizon. Daylight is here. What began in the great expanse of dark was met with a moment where light burst forth and everything changed. Possibilities became new. Life opened up and out. What was is no longer. This routine act of the sun bursting forth over the horizon each morning could seem ordinary, but it is anything but. For the force of new life has emerged to greet the world, unlike anything we have previously lived. This breathtaking, miraculous, life-giving moment daily reminds me of a passage from the prophet Isaiah. Now I am revealing new things to you, things hidden and unknown to you, created just now, at this very moment. Of these things you have heard nothing until now, so you cannot say, oh yes, I knew this. We heard in our gospel story today, while they were there, the time came for Mary to deliver her child, and she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. From the great expanse of the Roman Empire, a decree called the whole world to come and be registered in their hometowns. And Mary and Joseph, from a backwater town in Galilee, found themselves in Bethlehem. In a moment where great light burst forth and everything changed, Possibilities became new. Life opened up and out. What was in those times, as the prophet Isaiah spoke of, is no longer. And suddenly the world has entered into a brand new time, this day. This routine act of childbirth could seem ordinary, but it was anything but. For the force of new life had emerged to greet the world, unlike any had previously known or held. Now, I am revealing new things to you, things hidden and unknown to you, created just now, this very moment. Of these things you have heard nothing until now, so that you cannot say, oh yes, I knew this. The birth of the Messiah happened in this tight, cramped space, in the crowded town of Bethlehem, but the force of life revealed in that moment could not be contained in the specificity of the place or time, and immediately opened up and out to engage the entire cosmos, with angels singing songs of praise in the star-splattered midnight blue sky above, heralding the good news to the shepherds in the open fields, the lowliest of status and role, to the calling forth of the wise men from afar, respected and revered royalty. For this birth, this routine act of bearing a child into the world was not ordinary, but extraordinary, and occurred to bring the good news to all people, through all times, throughout the whole world. Just like the sunrise which moves from the depth of the night into the fullness of light and life, it was from a great expanse of dark, from the political corruption and spiritual oppression of the Roman Empire, that the fullness of the spiritual life and light emerged. What was is no longer. All of life has been changed in that moment, that breathtaking, miraculous, life-giving moment which birthed a light into the world that each heart could receive. So that each moment of our lives is infused with the possibility of new life, where each of our endings inherently contain a beginning, where we are offered a possibility to give birth to the light of Christ in our world, where there is a healing awaiting us and an invitation to wholeness. With this sentence, Mary gave birth to her firstborn son and laid him in a manger. The author of the Gospel of Luke makes this moment of the birth of Jesus the clear point of demarcation between those days, which Isaiah speaks to us about, by naming the specificity of the Roman officials who caused the gloom and the despair and the darkness that surrounded the people of Israel with this day, which comes with shouts of joy and gladness with the emergence of a great light. We have these moments too, which are clear moments of demarcation between those days and this day, when we move from the darkness of our souls into the light of Christ. Our moments are eternally shaped by Mary's moment. For when Mary gave birth to her firstborn son, shifts our ordinary moments to ones which can bring forth something brand new, hidden and unknown to us before, created just now, so that we cannot say, oh yes, I knew that. Sometimes these threshold moments, or thin spaces where the love of God can burst through, feel as though they are a long time in coming. But then suddenly, they are here right in front of us, shining as brightly as that newly risen sun that the force of life has propelled over the horizon. Sometimes these threshold moments feel tight and constricted as one imagines the scene of Mary, both around her and within her at the birth of Jesus. These threshold moments may be the ones that consume us with pain, or the ones that take our breath away. Often these threshold moments are the ones that change us the most, when we grasp the fullness of what we thought was impossible to bear or to hold. Mary's moment of the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, has eternally shaped our moments, because that moment was the landmark shift in the life of the world, one that changed everything. We are now in the light. The light of Christ is reflected upon us, as the pre-dawn light was reflected upon the east-facing tree trunks in the wood. Our spiritual journey is one in which we move to more fully embrace that light, to take it within our being so that we can reflect it out into the world. As we become more attentive to the possibility within each moment for that grace to flood into our hearts. Christmas is a perfect time to renew our commitment to hold each moment as the gift containing the light of Christ that it is, always knowing that God's effort at attracting us is persistent and true. I invite us to linger for a moment at the romanticism of the Christmas narrative, of savoring that moment when God's love, not just for the whole world, but for each one of us, bursts through. In the way the birth story is told in the Gospel of Luke, God creates again in a magnificent way, within a family, within a larger community, in a time of darkness, to bring light and hope and peace to the world. And each time we hear this story, it reconnects us to our longing for that truth to emerge, for peace to consume the hearts of the people of the world, for love to conquer all. And yet, I also invite you to move beyond the manger, beyond the trite saying of let's keep Christ in Christmas, to counter the rampant materialism of our day, because we want to keep Christ in our life every day. The largest question asked of us this holy night is, how are we to live as people already in the light? Our redemption is no longer a question of pursuit, but rather of a surrender to the God, to the light which is already within us and accessible to us in every single moment. For Mary's moment has eternally changed every one of our moments. Mary gave birth to her firstborn son so that others could be the secondborn and the thirdborn, and so on through eternity born, so that each of us may hold and be bearers of that same light. The truth of the birth of Jesus brings with it challenges and responsibilities, because the Messiah could only have been oriented toward justice and equity and righteousness, which means right relationship with God and with each other, because that's the nature of God. And that means that we, as second or third or fourth, and so on through eternity, born sons and daughters of God, we too must devote our lives to equity and justice and righteousness, which means right relationship with God and with each other, because we carry Christ's light within us. Jesus came not to rescue us from the world, but to redeem the world through us in our life right now. And this is the gift of Christmas. This is the gift of new possibilities. This evening, in this moment, we begin anew. We turn, we love, we deepen our lives. We conceive Jesus in our hearts in a brand new way, and we allow the goodness which Mary birthed that evening to be born over and over and over again. Now, I am revealing new things to you, things hidden and unknown to you, created just now, this very moment. Of these things you have heard nothing until now, so that you cannot say, oh yes, I knew this. In moments of simple kindness and compassion, in the quiet knowing of our own heart's desire, in the profound impulse toward life in every moment, even in our weeping, which witnesses to our capacity for great love, we can meet the responsibility of releasing the light, of allowing it to rise from the quiet and the still landscape within our soul, which has been settled from darkness, to allow the shades of pastel pink to emerge in our tenderness, to sit in our sacred spaces until the light deepens in hue, until the blue sky of hope and joy just pops into sight as light becomes focused within us. And then it happens. The blazing sun, the warmth and the love of Christ has been birthed from the horizon of our soul, and daylight is here. And light radiates from us, and the world is turned toward Christ, toward justice and equity and righteousness. What began in the great expanse of dark was met with a moment where radiant and holy light burst forth, and everything changed. Possibilities became new, and life opened up and out. What was is no longer. That is the gift of Christmas, which we unwrap every moment of our lives. Amen.